This is a talk. We're doing it. It's official. I'm Dusty. This is a picture of me when I had shorter hair, and I was also a little younger. I think it's still like close enough in age. I can keep using that photo, but eventually I'll age out of that. But anyway, about me, I've been a Bitcoiner for like 10 years, actually over 10 years. And I've been doing Bitcoin development stuff for about like 5. So it's kind of like what I'm about. And then there we go. Next slide. All right, so we're here to talk about splicing. Splicing comes from it's a weave that comes from ropes. So if you have like some rope and you want to have a bigger rope, you can use the splice weaves to get more bigger rope. So that's essentially where the splicing idea comes from. I want to get a sense of like who here knows what Lightning is already. Everybody, fuck yeah. Okay, cool. Who has run a Lightning node? Wow, everybody. Cool. Who has done more than like one channel with their Lightning node? Okay, that's awesome. All right, so we're going to skip all of the intro stuff. And my mouse stopped working. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, next slide, please. Cool. Yeah, so this is like why we need Lightning, but y'all already know that, so let's just keep going. It's El Salvador. Oh, actually, I went to the Papusa Mama. This is the first person in El Salvador to take Bitcoin using Lightning. I think Bitcoin at all, but she uses Lightning. I think it's like a rite of passage to go down there and buy it from her. I recommend it to all you guys. Her pupusas are really good. All right, so let's get past that. I need my notes. Okay, under the node. This is perfect. All right, so the Lightning node, which everyone here already knows what it is, that's the powerhouse of Lightning. It's where it starts. And if you go to the next slide, I like to call these channel partnerships because the idea is like one node creates a partnership with another one. It's a financial transaction. They're going to put funds down for that. So let's go to the next one. So we call that a channel, which you already all know. So this is sort of an illustration of like how these partnerships form chains together to form the whole Lightning network. Does everyone understand that already? So skipping through. Anyone not understand? Raise your hand if you don't. If you're not familiar with that. So there was a nose twitch, but I don't think that was a hand raise. Cool. So the idea of payments, which you probably already know, but let's go over it. I guess anybody, maybe it's being recorded. So somebody who knows this. The goal of these channels is to move Bitcoin across them. So you can move it across one channel, but the magic is you can move it across multiple channels and reach anybody in the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin Lightning network. Look at it go. Cool. So the other important thing is that Lightning channels have a size. They can be big. I think if you hit the button, it'll show up being big. And they can also be small. So being familiar with the idea that Lightning channels have a size is critical for understanding like what splicing is all about. Okay, so if you want to route a large payment through a smaller channel, you can't, as this animation shows. So the way you can route a large payment is you need to make your channel size larger, like that. Cool. We're going over that real quick. We're going to go to the technical stuff. Okay, so let's see, where are we? I think we can go back one. Do we skip one? No, forward. Oh. Yeah, if we go forward, that's the big channel. Okay, so how do you make your channel bigger?
You don't.
The answer is you don't. You can't. So this is much to the chagrin of Lightning node operators everywhere. It's actually one of the most common questions new Lightning operators have is like, how do I make the channel bigger? And the answer always is, oh, you can't, do something else. Okay, cool. So yeah, now they can. So now channels can be resized with splicing. Oh, thank you. The code for this isn't released, of course. It's just on like my computer in super secret lands. But I think
only you can do it.
Yes.
So not like the end of the talk?
That's the end of the talk. Yeah, thanks for coming. So this emoji is representing the happiness that Lightning operators will have with splicing. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to go into the technical stuff. So this is a warning for anybody who's not technical, but I think literally everybody here is technical, so you can ignore this warning. Let's skip past it. More warning. Okay, so who's like, okay, so I want to get a sense of like the word on-chain. Who knows what the word on-chain means here? Okay, cool. That's fucking awesome. One of my goals has been to try to like stop using that for my nomenclature, but today I'm going to be able to use it. But I think this is worth going through as if you didn't know it. So I've been calling it the base layer. And if we go to the next slide, I needed my notes for this. Anyway, so the way I like to describe this is the base layer started from this thing called the Byzantine generals problem. Most people have never thought about the country of Byzantine or its generals or anything about that. But it's essentially, it was an unsolvable problem that cryptographers and computer scientists thought about for a long time that was long thought impossible. And then Satoshi made the solution to it, the one and only solution to it that can exist from the nature of it, using proof of work. Right, so what is the base layer good for? The base layer is good for enforcing cryptographic contracts. So that's an important note. And let me just go over here. Right, so the most common usage of these contracts is just making a payment. So if you make a payment from one person to another on the base layer, it's actually a contract that enforces that. But these contracts can do all kinds of other things as well. Yeah, this part is all very in my notes. Yeah, so there are about 30,000. So we're backing up. Let's talk about just like legal contracts for a second. I'm just going to speak from here. There are about 30,000 judges in the United States. And the number of contracts that are signed in the legal world are unknown. It's something like, it could be millions per day. So you can imagine a world where a judge had to read and approve every single contract that occurred in the US. Nothing would happen. It would grind the legal system to a crawl. So in this way, judges are acting as the base layer for contracts. People sign them individually with each other, and only the final settlement of those contracts has to be in the court system. So with Bitcoin, we have about 200,000 base layer contracts can be handled there per day. The number of transactions is unknown, but easily could be millions. You could imagine a world where the base layer of Bitcoin had to read and approve every single Bitcoin contract that occurred, and that would slow it to a crawl. So in this way, the base layer acts as final settlement for these contracts. Some contracts require final settlement, but most don't. The only difference from the court analogy to Bitcoin is that these are cryptographic contracts. Okay, so one way to think about Lightning is you form a contract between two peers. And that contract typically will say, like, if let's say I open up a channel with D++, the initial contract will just be that I get all those funds. And what you can do is take that existing contract and then write a new version of it, one where, say, D gets like 20% of that. And this is like, I call this contract usurping. So if you hit the next slide for me, I think it says that. Yeah, so the idea is I'm going to write a new contract that updates the amount, and I can do that repeatedly. So like a very, very active channel could do this 100,000 times, and only the final contract is enforceable. So this is kind of the analogy I like to use for Lightning contracts in Bitcoin. And another important note is this contract doesn't even have to actually get published to the main chain. Just like legal contracts privately, you form a contract with somebody, the fact that it could go to a courtroom is enough to keep it enforced. So this way is, I think, a really simple way to understand like what a Lightning channel is. It's just updating the contract with never actually having to publish it. Okay, so Lightning splicing is just one more of these contract usurps. But it's a special kind. It's a kind that wants to adjust the actual total size inside of the contract. So in a typical Lightning contract usurp with me and D, we can adjust who gets how much. But if we want to adjust the total amount in the contract, that has to go back to the base layer to be approved. Right, okay. So the nervous system. Oh, thank you for reading my notes. Yeah. So
You didn't seem that nervous.
so the Lightning messages are the nervous system of the Lightning network. That's how I like to think about it. Who here's ever like screwed with a Lightning message, knows what it is, have seen one in the wilds? Cool, we need less hands, finally.
The talk here previously was just about gossip messages.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh. So all of Lightning is built on these channel messages. So like here's some examples of them that we see. These are all ones that exist today. These are like the official names, ping pong. It's like hello in nerd speak. The point is there are lots of messages, and these messages are a really key piece of what we build the rest of the Lightning Network off of. So now we have a new one. It's called Splice. So the Splice message is, what it's doing is you're activating a new stage of your relationship with your channel. We're saying, hey, we're gonna do this contract updates, and it puts us in a mode where we can start typically adding funds. But one of the cool things is our channel partner could also add funds. So because the contract signing has to be collaborative anyway, it makes sense to allow both sides to just collaboratively work on the transaction. So this puts us in that mode.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So who implemented this new splice message into the Lightning Network?
Oh, that's a great question. Well,
bolts did it touch?
how many bolts did it touch? Oh, yeah, mostly a bolt 2, but the 3 bolts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so the spec was written by Rusty and Lisa, and I think T-Bass has been helping too, and I've written the code for it. I think that was a plug for me to promote myself there. Right. So the goal of the message is to like start this splice process, and the fact that it's collaborative actually is really cool. It enables a lot of like ancillary benefits. So if we go forward a slide, oh yes, this is my animation for. We have, let's say me and Dee have this 1 Bitcoin channel with each other. If we do a splice by hitting the next button, we could turn it into a bigger one. Much to the excitement of everybody. Cool. So I'm just going to go through some of the messages that are added for Splice. Splice was obviously the big one. Before we get to Splice, we have this new mode called STFU. And I can never pronounce the other word, quiescence, I think, something like that. That one, yes. So this ends up being important is actually the first message you send, and it basically just says, hey, let's like not talk about anything else right now. I want to have a serious conversation with you about splicing or something else. This is a reusable thing. In practice, like when I'm running STV mode, it tends to go really quick. Like on my machine, it's like a split second. And I think in the wild, it should be pretty quick too. So that's an important thing. Cool. Who's familiar? Raise your hand if you know what an input is on a transaction. Nice. And an output, I presume, is the same group? Yeah, it's worth talking about it just a little bit. So inputs are when you move funds into something, and outputs are when you take it out. So if I'm splicing an extra Bitcoin with D, I'm definitely going to want to put in 1 more Bitcoin as one of the inputs. And we'll get back to more on outputs later. So after we STFU and start the splice mode, the nodes will take turns adding inputs and outputs. So both sides get to do it. They just take turns going, I want to add this input, I want that output. In this example, I would just be adding 1, but there is the opportunity to add multiple of them. Might want to add like a change output, for instance. Who here knows? Oh, yeah, what's up?
Is there a limit to how many shared UTXOs you can have in the channel?
6.15. How many shared UTXOs like in the splice?
Yeah. You're saying you can add more inputs. Is there a limit? Or?
Yeah, there's some limit. I think it's real big. Like I doubt you'd actually hit it. Yeah. Yeah, 4,000 at least.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is the limitation just like the size of a Bitcoin transaction, or what would the limitation come from?
Yeah, there's definitely that limitation. Like I wouldn't be surprised if in the spec meetings Lisa might know more. There was a reason to lower it a little bit, but I imagine it's quite close to. Yeah, there was. Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's something important that was decided by people that thought about it very hard and were very smart. Okay, so in a typical base layer contract, here I think I can say the word on-chain transaction. It's like a safe space to say that word. In a typical on-chain transaction, we have funds coming in, and then we also have funds going out. But there's a special input and output for the splice transaction. One of the inputs coming in is actually the existing contract itself comes into the transaction as an input. So with D, it was our 1 Bitcoin contract. And then one of the outputs is going to be the 2 Bitcoin contract coming out. So there's a special input and output for that has to be put in there. Cool. Yeah, if we go back for a second. Yeah, there we go. Oh, not that far. Wait, yeah, back one. Yes, there was, back on the last slide, there's a point I want to make here. One more back. No, too far. And then go forward one. There we go. Yeah, so one of the really cool things this enables that I kind of want to talk about is because if I start a splice with D, she has the opportunity to add her own inputs and outputs to our splice transaction. And they could be anything. And it could be that, say, she wanted to do another splice with Lisa that she's been waiting to do. And when she sees me start a splice, she could then activate a second splice with Lisa and then merge it back through in this process all into one single transaction.
You mean like a coin join?
It's kind of like a coin join. And then what's crazy about that is then Lisa could go do that again to somebody else, and this could chain up to for as many as people want, basically.
4,000.
4,000, right? Yeah, 4,000. So like this enables some really cool things. It's a lot like a coin join, but without any like central organizer like we see with most coin join platforms. It's a totally decentralized coin join situation. And also, it ends up being cheaper because you're sharing one transaction, your on-chain footprint is lower. So it ends up being cheaper to do transactions this way than it is just traditionally with the regular Bitcoin on-chain transaction. So so the nature of coin joins is the more people that join them, the better they work. And if you make it cheaper to join a coin join than to not, you'll incentivize over time more people to just join the pool, making it, in the long run, even more effective than a regular coin join. OK, cool. Thank you for going back to that slide for me. So we're just going through all the messages involved in the splice. After we've added all of our inputs and outputs, then we get to say TX complete. This is a very exciting command. Remember the first time I got it to send? I felt very good about it. It's a very simple one. It's just like, all right, we're done splicing. There's an important thing that's like a little nuance where like both sides have to send it. So like what'll happen is one side's done, they just keep saying they're complete till the other side does. And once they both do, then the splice is like ready to go. So you have to go forwards. You have to calculate the balance and fees, which like doesn't add any cool new features, but it's complicated and it's important to do. And there's a whole lot of like, so like the nature of it is, I think I could talk about this more because everyone knows what a transaction is. Since D and I are doing this splice together, some of those bytes in the transaction will have come from D and some will come from me. So I have to pay the fee for the bytes that I added, and she has to pay for the bytes that she added. And also Lisa has to pay for hers. So that's all has to be calculated, done correctly. All right, cool. To go forward. And then what we have to send is the commitment signed. Commitment signed is the funnest of the Lightning messages. What this does is it takes all of your pending Lightning payments and it builds the signatures for those. So this is done normally all the time in a Lightning channel. As payments go through, both nodes are constantly signing for these pending payments. But with splicing, one of the things that's kind of interesting and cool is that for all the pending payments, you're going to sign them for the existing channel, but also for the new one. So the new channel ends up in this state where it's like once it's finished, it's not published yet, or it hasn't reached the number of confirmations required. So you end up the node in its mind it actually has two channels, the old one and the new one, and they can exist for about like 6 blocks. So during that time, it's going to sign all of the pending payments for the old channel and the new one. And this is cool because what it means is, compared to like say a channel closed and open to change the size, you can't process payments on the channel. But with splicing, like while we're doing the splice, payments can still flow through just fine, which I think is very exciting. Cool. And then we get TX signature, which is the final step. And that's where you sign the actual contract itself. So similar to like a legal document, you're gonna sign off the old contract and then also nullifying the old one and sign the new ones. That's like the final step. Yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah. At what point does it exit quiescent mode?
I think actually at this stage, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. What's up?
Does Microsoft know you're using Clippy?
Oh, this is recorded, isn't it? What's up?
Well, on the quiescent mode point, like I guess I was a little confused because you said at the beginning quiescent mode was kind of like, okay, let's only talk about the channel splicing, but then you said that while they're negotiating the channel splice, they can also still process transactions.
So like the STFU during STFU mode they can't, but STFU mode basically it activates all these messages get routed off in quick succession and they leave STFU mode, but you still have 6 blocks until the splice is confirmed.
Okay, yeah, so you're saying they can still route payments while they're waiting for the splice to
Yeah.
confirm. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So for
TX
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think one of them automatically pops it out, and I think it might be this one. Yeah, it's in the spec. What's up?
In between TX commitment and or commitment TX and TX signature, let's say a node goes offline. Do those UTXOs get doxed and the channel doesn't go through?
So they could sign the HTLCs, but they don't do TX signature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in that case they would just abort the entire splice.
So the UTXOs are known by whichever peer was in the channel or trying to participate in splice.
The UTXOs. Wait, the UTXOs
Whatever
that
they're
are.
adding into the channel, right, for the splice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would that dox that? I mean, yeah, I suppose so. Like I think in the current iteration, like if something like that happens, it probably just like closes everything. Like if things get weird enough, like everything just kind of goes to close. But those sort of events should not happen unless it's like a malicious node or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that happens like most likely to end up in like
Well,
at least a connection reset, but probably a force close.
Not that they would take your funds, but they would know your UTXO that you tried to add, right? Like the input.
Yeah, but I mean, so we're saying like a potential hostile actor like opens a channel with you, and then waits for you to splice with them, and then like lets the channel force close, like learn your UTXOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could. It just seems like to me, it seems like quite a lot of like expensive steps for them to do. And
It's also a little bit of, you were talking, Dustin was talking earlier, sorry.
yeah, please.
Talking earlier about how there's a possibility that those UTXOs might not even be your channel peers.
Right.
There's definitely an
Oh, yes,
element of, it's not, just because you got sent a UTXO from your channel peer doesn't mean it was theirs.
Yeah. So like with my thing with D, Lisa's adding her stuff to it. I don't know if it's hers or Lisa's or hypothetically anybody else's. Yeah.
Do you ever communicate with Lisa, or does D like relay all?
I don't know who Lisa is. I don't talk to her. I mean, real life, she's very cool. I do talk to her, but it's definitely creates an anonymity set, right? So like D knows who we both are, but I don't know who Lisa is. And if Lisa goes to someone else, D has no idea if Lisa went to someone else either. So kind of like Lightning, you only know the peers next to you. You have no knowledge of the ones beyond that.
So Lisa wouldn't even have to participate.
Have to participate? No.
She wouldn't have to participate.
No. I mean, in this scenario, like D wants to splice with Lisa, so she's interacting with Lisa, but it's like she's doing the engagement. Lisa's just like, you want to add funds to our Lightning channel? That's cool. I don't care. But she could add more if she wanted to, but she's not required to. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's like, I might be wrong, but I think it's like bolt 3 specifies that the person that requests the channel to be open ends up paying the fee when the channel is closed. In this scenario, it's the person that initiates the splice ends up taking ownership of the channel closing fee. Like, who pays the channel closing fee if a splice channel gets closed?
My understanding is the closing semantics are the same as when the channel started. But the initiator of the splice is responsible for a few extra bytes in the transaction. Like all the overhead bytes of like versions and other stuff in the transaction, the splice initiator is responsible for those extra little bytes. Just not much in practice. Yeah, but I believe the who pays for closing doesn't change. That's however it was in the beginning of the channels, just stays the same. Cool. Yeah.
What if I was looking at the blockchain, would I be able to identify a splicing transaction, or would this look like I wouldn't be able to tell?
Well, that's a good question. I think with like Taproot, you wouldn't be able to. With SegWit, you would see the 2-2 multi-sigs being signed. But you wouldn't like there could be a lot of other stuff in there too. Like you could have a transaction with like multiple splices in it, and you'd be like, that's probably a multi-splice. But eventually with Taproot, you won't be able to see any of that.
But would it also appear like would it potentially look like just like any other multi-sig, like multiple channel open potentially or something? Like what I'm wondering is there any differentiation between opening up a channel and then splicing a channel like on chain?
Well, opening a channel is already private today. You can't tell from an open that it's a channel open. But from a channel close, you can tell that it was a channel. And so like that same attribute applies to splicing with SegWit today. But one day with Taproot, that'll also be hidden by Taproot.
So if you splice in, you're going to have two inputs. One's a 2-2 multisig, and one is what appears to just be a single sig transaction. And it's unlikely you're going to have that particular combo anywhere outside of splicing unless you just like using 2-2 multisigs for fun. So you can kind of tell.
Yeah, everyone should start doing 2-2 multisigs for fun, just to get our anonymity set up. So.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah, it's mostly Lightning that does that. Yeah.
You brought up the idea of like during the 6 block period, it writes to the old and the new.
Yeah, it signs for both. Yeah.
Signs for both. I guess what I'm wondering is there's like some kind of tragedy where, you know, it's like, oh, 6 is enough, but then on like the 7th block or at 5, you know, something where some big reorg happens, is it important that it stop at 6, or should it like in case of a reorg, would you have saved yourself if you wrote to the old one for more than 6 blocks? I guess I'm wondering, is 6 just a number to kind of protect yourself, but if it's still you get reorg, you're still kind of screwed? Like I don't really know the.
I wasn't involved in the discussion of that. I bet Lisa was, but I'm betting 6 was just a big enough number where it's like secure, so secure, way more than needed. Like you probably could do 1 comp or 0 comp splices theoretically. Yeah, I think 6 is just like a huge buffer of like securities. It's just.
Okay, but then if you do have a reorg, what would happen?
Bitcoin's broken. We all switched to Dogecoin. You know.
So I understand.
Yeah.
Let's say there is a reorg.
Okay.
At 6 blocks. What happens to the splices or whatever?
The same thing that happens to a channel, like there's no, you have no assurance that like any of the off-chain contracts that you've updated that have settled value or changed hands can actually be settled on chain. So like any of the, if you've like opened a channel and sent someone money, the person who received the money in the Lightning channel has no assurance that they'll actually able to get that out in the real world. But Satoshi has really good stats in the white paper about the probability of block reorgs.
That's not what I'm interested in though. I guess I'm more interested in why write to the old state at all after like a confirmation, or like, you know, if it's already going to get reversed anyways, why write to the old state at all? That's the part I don't get.
Well, I think while it's in 0 confirmations, it makes total sense,
Sure.
right? Because
that's fine.
the splice could be RBI
But
after anything
that,
else.
it just seems weird to me to write for 6 blocks to the old state.
I think it's just like a margin of like safety,
But,
you know, like.
but the margin of safety is not is the part I don't understand, because if you do a reorg, it seems like it gets reversed anyways, and like you whether you wrote to the new state or the old
I
state.
think the idea is that if there's a reorg, it's generally like a 1-block reorg that happens. And so if you have a 1-block reorg, you have the safety net, but it's unlikely that we would see like 6 blocks get reorged.
I think we're talking past each other. There's something I don't understand here, so we can talk later maybe.
Sure. I mean, I think that.
LND and core lightning, I think core lightning as well, but I think it's by default that you need 6 blocks after the core channel is actually open when you open any channel. So I think it makes sense for consistency that the splice channel is effectively a new channel.
Yeah.
Size. So I think it just makes sense to keep it consistent with like the 6 block depth for channel opening.
Yeah, theoretically with a channel open, you could like open a channel and then like send a payment through and then like reorg the blockchain to undo the channel and try to keep that lightning payment. Like I think that's the same kind of attack you might try to do here, but totally impractical. What are you gonna say?
Similar something, I guess. But I guess one thing is that they could also have policies internally where it's like, sure, like you won't route like a massive payment through until there's more confirmations, maybe, right? If we're adding a Bitcoin to the channel and like this would exceed it, maybe that could be a blocker. The idea is it's just a safety error, and you do envision that sometimes channel splices will fail. We'll just never get confirmed.
Yeah.
Right? That's just going to happen.
Totally.
And so it makes sense that maybe that happens after 1 confirmation, maybe 2, almost never 6. So we just go 6.
Yeah, and like in the current process, it's all just choosing the safety options. Like if you're splicing in funds, until that confirms, you can't spend more than the old channel balance, and it stays that way until it confirms. Although there is talk of 0 conf splices where you could do that, but that's not happening now. Okay, well, go forward real quick. I just want to summarize my things. All right, let's go to the next one. So the things that splicing add, just at a high level, is we can increase the size of channels. Very exciting. One of the cool things is you can store your funds on Lightning and do an on-chain payment from your Lightning balance. So this would be a thing where you purposely decrease the size of your channel by an amount that you want to do an on-chain payment, as illustrated by this animation. Look at that. It went to on-chain. The other cool things you can do is, I think this might actually be the most common one, is cross-channel sizing. So like most Lightning operators, like they'll have like 80% of the channels would be kind of useless, and 20% would be like give them all the action. So moving the funds from the less active channels to the more active one by that animation, I think will be probably one of the most common ones. That's my guess. The incentivized coin nodes, we covered that. Like it's basically